Hello, my name is Wes Sampson. I'm a Senior Support Representative with Metalogic Software, and I'm here to present our 10th Quick Take video. Our discussion today will be options unable to paste with the content matrix. This will be a 30-minute quick take. The first 15 minutes will consist of myself discussing the product and the issue itself, and the last 15 minutes or more will be questions that are posed by the participants. So if you want to write your questions in while the presentation is going on, I can answer them after the presentation. Today our goals are to review the content matrix and issues with unable to paste due to the target being, quote, grayed out, no option to paste, or there's a lock on the target, or basically it's in read-only mode. We're going to talk about the content matrix suite and how the licensing works, the content matrix organizer and the license check WSPs, and why this can cause issues with basically your target site being in read-only / grayed out, and also the common issues that can cause this grayed out, unable to write to the target license. So let's dig right in. I'll cancel PowerShell. And as you can see here, this is the content matrix. I am running our latest version, 7.104, and you can see that I have three connections here, but really actually to two farms. One is my 2007 farm. That one there is my source farm for today, and my 2010 farm. Now, if we were to try and grab a site collection as a test, and right-click and copy, and we'll go to, let's say, this site collection that I've created in our test environment, and I'll open it up and show you that it's just a regular publishing site collection. I try to paste, and it's all grayed out. It allows me to copy it, but it's still all grayed out. So I could basically use this same connection to copy from. But why is it grayed out? One reason could be, and I doubt it this is the reason, is that you selected to connect to SharePoint read-only. We recommend using that for your target. That way, you would never delete something on your target in mistake. I'm sorry, in your source by mistake. For example, in mine, my source does not have that lock. I could go ahead, right-click, and delete this site, and it will not go in the recycle bin. It's deleted, gone forever. Therefore, we do recommend, if you're for your source, to always use a read-only connection if possible. Also, just to bring this up, connecting to the SharePoint database is always read-only. Connecting to the source, the target, you'd want to use the connect to SharePoint. This would be a non-read-only mode. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect to a site. You can see that my source right now has a tiny lock here, basically saying it's read-only. So I'm going to connect to a site here, bring down my drop-down menu, and I'm just going to connect to another site collection I created. Nothing fancy, just going to connect to the site. I'm going to leave it to auto-detect, but you can pick what you need to use if possible. Same with the authentication type, but I'm going to leave it at auto-detect. Hit OK. And you can see that we are getting an informational here. A lot of people will hit the do not show this message again, which it will not show it again. But basically, it's stating that it's been placed in read-only mode. And to enable writing to this connection, please install the Metalogic, the content matrix installer to deploy the content matrix organizer or license check server to the target environment. And I will discuss why this is necessary. But first, I will just let this go through. And you can see that it's going to connect to the target, and it is in read-only. The content matrix organizer is basically a WSP file feature, solution file that has more functionality than just checking a license. But it does have that functionality. You can take a look. It has functionality to actually reorganize within the same farm. Now, a lot of our customers do choose to do that. But inside it also, it has basically an algorithm that will check the licensing. And with Content Matrix Suite, the full edition, the licensing is not based on how much you migrate. You can migrate an unlimited amount. It's based on the size of your target environments. So if you have a license, let's say for 1,000 gigabytes, and you have two target environments, one's 300 and maybe one's 500. The organizer or the license check would calculate that to be 800 gigabytes, and you still have 200 free to use. Now, what's the difference between the organizer and the license check? Well, the organizer gives you that functionality to actually move site collections, sites, lists in the same environment through the SharePoint API. I'm not going to show you that today, as this is a little different. But included into that, like I said, is that algorithm to check the license. Some of our customers do not want to use this. So what we have is an either-or option. You either can install the license, the organizer. If not, you can install the license check. And the license check is a WSP, basically like the organizer. It doesn't show anything in the UI other than it actually calculates your target environments. So some common issues that can cause this. First off, not having the organizer installed or the license check, WSP. So let's take a look at my environment here and see what the issue is. Well, in my environment, you can see here the Metalogix Fluent.WSP. That's actually the Content Matrix organizer. And in my environment, it's just not deployed. In your environment, it may not even be there. If it is there, you could deploy it. If it's not, you would have to actually install it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to leave it the way it is. But if I were to deploy this, go back to go back to the Content Matrix and either restart the console or just hit refresh on the connections, they would come back. Now, I'm going to go ahead and just basically I'm going to show you how to. Another option would be that it's actually not activated. So it's possible that it is fully deployed. So I'll go ahead and deploy this solution file. And while that's going on, now this does cause an app pool reset, so it will affect your environment temporarily. Hopefully mine doesn't take too long. Oh, look at this. That is very unexpected, but that's okay. We'll go back. That is very unexpected. But it'll bring us to our next step either way. Okay, so there looks like there's an issue here. It looks like it's already been installed, forcibly reinstalled the feature. So it's possible that you'd have issues like this when trying to redeploy, which is okay because we are going to go through the installation process of that feature anyway. So let me just check the firm solutions here, and you can see there's an error here. That's fine. We're just going to leave that like that. So we're going to go through the installation. First thing I'm going to do is remove it. So I already started up the installation, and you can get this installation from basically our website, our Metalogix.com, and if you go down to support and then product download resources, it'll actually bring up this web page. You can download whatever version you're using. This is the online installation. So if you're actually if your server doesn't have internet access, this is probably not the best to download, because what it does, it basically will only download what you select. So the installer will go look on our servers from MSI files. But if you wanted to, and what I usually recommend, is to download the offline setup that has the whole thing in it. It's a bit larger, about 280 megabytes compared to the other ones, about 45. But you go ahead and download the one that you need. The next thing you would do is you would start it up, and it basically shows what's installed here. You can see that I have 7104 installed. Now, I'm not going to remove any of my consoles. You may not even have the console on your target environment. So we'll go ahead and check the left-hand side for installing the WSBs. It does say remove. Yours might say install if nothing is installed. So I'm going to remove the WSBs from my environment. And sometimes it'll be in the background. Usually it pops up right ahead, but it says the organizer is already deployed and needs to be retracted. Do you want to remove it now? You'd say yes to this. If you never had it at all when you're uninstalling, if you even needed to uninstall, you wouldn't see this message at all. And it goes ahead, checks your version, sees that the timer service is running and what is installed. We'll just hit next. And we're going to remove, we'll just ignore that. That usually only comes up on my system. We'll hit remove. And it's going to create a job. It's going to purge some configurations in your web config. It'll remove the solution from the SharePoint Solution Store. And the operation is a success. Now we'll go back to my solutions management here, and we're just going to refresh this. Now that was the organizer, and you can see I had some issues with it. Unexpected. Never nice to have issues during a quick take, but we'll let that go through. As you can see, I have multiple extensions installed. And that's okay. You can have multiple extensions, the Metalogix web extensions in here. You can see now the Metalogix.fluent is no longer there. And as I had mentioned, that one is for the organizer itself. So if you never had it at all, or you wanted to repair it, you would go through the same process. You'd basically, oh, looks like something's still being done here. We'll let that go through. Just checking, it should still all be. Well, it's very odd. Now I don't have a lock for some reason. Let me just reactivate this here. Well, that license, a temporary license, that's going to be disabled as soon as this meeting is adjourned. I'm just going to close and reopen it here. It's actually, I have it in my quick bar, so. Okay, while that's opening up, we're going to install the license checker. Again, it's necessary. If not, you'll have a read-only access on your target. So I'll install the Content Matrix WSPs. We'll hit next. Hit next. And now you can see here that you have a couple different options here. Of course, if you want, if you're not running this locally, you do not need the SharePoint web extensions, but by default they're installed. But when you can either check like I said, you could pick either or, the organizer or the license check. If I uncheck the organizer, I get the license check. This time we're going to install the license check itself. And I'm just removing the SharePoint email viewer. That's basically when you're migrating from public folders, Exchange public folders. Okay, now after you install either the organizer or the license check, it's going to ask you to activate it, and we're going to launch it now. We really do recommend you launch it now. If not, you'd actually have to go to Program Files, All Programs, MetaLogics, License Check. It would say Organizer if it would Content Matrix Organizer, if not, and you would see a License Check or Content Matrix Organizer activation. But we'll let the software actually open it up. So you can see that my key is in the window. That is and I'm going to put in a local admin to all my farms. Just happens to be myself. And I'll do an online activation as the system does have internet access. If not, you'd have to do an offline activation and basically follow the directions. Okay, so the activation is complete. What it did during that process is actually calculated the size of the farm. And close. So that's been installed, and I'm going to refresh here. Now, what this also does with either the license check or the organizer, it actually creates a timer job that's run just once in the middle of the night that will calculate that out and calculate the size of the farm each night. And now you can see that the license check, MetaLogic license check.WSP has been fully deployed. And if we bring this up and restart it, you will see now that they are all non-read-only. Now, it may look a little different on mine as they were not read-only. It could have been from a residual license. So we do have a couple different license types here for, development and testing. But on your end, if you did have locks, you would not be able to copy and paste. So you can see now if I go to the 2007 and right-click and copy and go to any of these sites, I can just right-click, paste the subsite. I don't have the publishing infrastructure turned on. That's a very important thing. That's a warning that if I were migrating, I would actually go do that before migrating, but I'll let it go. In this case, I'm not going to run the migration, as you can see that now you can write to it. But another common issue is if you do, like I said, let's say you do check and you do have it installed. It's possible that it's just not activated. So you would basically have to go start programs, MetaLogics license check, again, here, and it would bring it up. I'll ask you turn that on. Now, if you're using Server 2012, it's not the same as going to your start button. You'd actually have to search for that, the content matrix organizer or license check, and it would bring up the activation button to use. Then I'd go through the activation. I'm not going to do it now as I just did it a few minutes previous. So I'll abort that. Now, if we had the actual organizer installed, we would have, oh, yes, I do have some processes in there for the organizer, but you can see here that since now that we have the license check installed, we have a license verification job. My environment happens to have two. That is probably a glitch from months of testing on this specific machine. But you can see that if you open it up, it's done between 2 and 3 a.m. daily. We don't recommend changing this. You can, but we really don't recommend it. By default, the keys need to be reactivated every 30 days. So if there's no access to the internet, you will get a warning that you need to do another offline activation. So that concludes the presentation portion of this. I'm going to see if we have any questions. Looks like we have one question. Where does the content matrix get its licensing data from? Well, basically, it gets it from wherever you have the license key or the organizer installed. So if you have it installed on multiple farms, it will calculate it out as multiple towards your datable multiple times. So let's say I was going from SP 2010 to SP 2013 and I installed the license check on both the source and the target. It would calculate the size of the farm in gigabytes for the source and the size of the farm in gigabytes on the target and combine it. This can cause your license to go over, specifically if you're only looking to migrate to one specific farm. So it's really not necessary to install it on the source unless you plan on migrating something to that farm in the future. Now also in the ticket, the question's also saying it looks like it grabbed the information from the source as well as the target. What I think happened there is that basically it was at one time installed on source. And if you are over your limit, I recommend calling our technical support or create a ticket at our portal at www.metalogix.com/support, and our technical team can take a look at that. I'll wait to see if there's any other questions. So there's a question here. If I accidentally installed it on the source and I removed it from the farm, will I get the data back? I would do that, remove it from the farm. I don't think you'll get the data back, but I recommend waiting to allow the job to go overnight. I'm pretty sure that it will stay in there. You may need to call our technical support and after you've uninstalled it, for us to remove that specific server from our licensing server. And now there's another question here regarding multiple WSPs at the same time. It's not really for this quick take, but I'll answer it. Best practices is to only have you don't want to have all the WSPs in there, but you can have multiples of the same versions or different versions. So as you've seen in my environment, I had 7001, 7104, 7004. There is no conflict. Also, I will reply privately to that message as well if there's any other questions concerning this particular quick take. Okay, this will conclude the meeting. I do see there's some questions here that I will answer. I'm currently answering that don't really pertain to the quick take session. And have a good day.